Hello everybody, my name is Chaos, and today I'm going to cover a generalized life path for everyone who isn't a Witcher and everyone who isn't a mage. We're going to go over those in separate videos, and for now we're going to cover this generally. This isn't going to be comprehensive. I'm not going to read out every table. I'm just going to tell you what you roll for each, what the life paths are, and everything else. So let's get into it. Life path. In the world of The Witcher, your early life can be very important. Not only does it tell you what land you grew up in, but also what kind of environment you lived in, what the people around you were like, and what skills you learned. There's also the point at which you decide which of the three sides of the Third Northern War you hail from. This may not reflect what side you are on now, but it'll tell you what you grew up knowing about the conflict and what people will expect of you. So, read the blurbs, chance versus choice. With GM permission, you can choose each part of your life path instead of rolling it. However, we recommend going through the life paths randomly once or twice to see what you get. And I recommend that too, just so you can build a fun character. The Elderlands. As a non-human, you can choose to come from one of the traditional homelands of the Elder races, the Mahakam Mountains or Dol Bothana. This is not mandatory, and you can roll on the table for your homeland instead. Witcher Life Path. As a Witcher, you roll on a Witcher-specific life path in the Running a Witcher section on page 237. If you want, you can roll on the life path tables to see what the family you were taken from was like, but they are most likely dead and you do not gain the benefits of the rolls. So again, Witcher Life Path is specifically independent from this generalized one as well as from the Mage Life Path. So there's a quaint difference. You can find more information on your homeland in the World section, starting on page 179. If you rolled Sintra as your homeland, you'll have to look under Nilfgaard. Sintra was only captured a few years ago, and many still hold hope to gain it back from Nilfgaard. So, if you roll up, if your region odd number, Northern Origin, even number, Nilfgaard, non-human, Elderlands. 1d10, the Heart of Nilfgaard, plus 1 Vassal. Go to Vassal Origin. Elderland, Dolbothana, Dwarf, Mahakam. Or you play as as we mentioned previously in the race videos. You can also get +1 in crafting if you're a gnome or a halfling if you live with dwarves. So this is the Northern Origin. This is the Vassal Origin. Then you roll a 1d10. If you get an even result, you know that some of your family is alive. If you get an odd result, something happened to your family, good or bad. Even result. Next, after that, parents are alive. With an even result. Odd number, something happened to your parents. Familial fate. Along the course of your life, it's all too common for something to go horribly wrong. If you're finding out where you grew up, roll on these two tables to find out how lucky your family was as you were growing up. Familial fate. If you rolled that something happened to your family over the course of your life, Roll on the table below. Not everything on this list affects your family directly. Some of the events below involve your interactions with them. These events affect not only your parents but also your siblings. Roll out a d10 or choose below, then go to family status. So Northern, Nilfgaardian, and Elderland status right here. The Casimir family. Hey, life's never easy for elder folk growing up in the north. Hey, had it easier than the elves, but it still wasn't exactly a walk in the park. I think most of the reason we didn't get more trouble was my pa was one tough older dwarf, and he made sure everybody knew it. Now, a real problem was my brother, Augustin. He joined the Squatel a few years back. Said he'd had enough with the damn Dwan running roughshod over his dwarves. See where he was coming from, but there ain't no sense in hunting down innocent humans to get back at the real bastards. Ma agrees with me, but Pa's always been the militant sort. Hey, really split the family up. Let me tell you, family reunions ain't no picnic. You can count on at least one broken table and half a dozen crumpled goblets. Sounds grim? These tables seem somewhat depressing or ominous. Remember that in a truly medieval world, life is often nasty, brutish, and short. Alright, and parental fate. If you rolled that something happened to your parents over the course of your life, roll on the table below. Not everything else list affects your parents directly. Some of the events below involve your interaction with them, such as having been sold or given away at a young age. So you roll a 1d10, find out what happened to your parents, if something happened to your father, your mother, or both. So, and it's divided between Northern, Nilfgaardian, and Elderland. Brandon's parents. When I was growing up in Oxenfurt, it was quite an open and freewheeling city. There was the ferment of advanced thought everywhere. Every once in a while, a professor or student would be arrested for heresy, but other than that, Redonian control was largely unseen, even though the students were often too poor to buy my father's shoes. It looked like a vital and carefree way of life. When I and my siblings were older and some had perished of the usual childhood maladies, my mother was able to take a job cleaning house for an alchemy professor. I sometimes went with her and saw science all over the floor, walls, and ceiling. It was then that I realized my calling was in the humanities. Brandon of Oxenford. Non-human nobility. You may wind up rolling aristocracy as a non-human living in human territory. In Nilfgaard, this isn't much of a problem, so they are more accepting of non-humans. In the north, assume that your family are less traditional aristocracy and more highly skilled or prized people in the eyes of the local king. Nilfgaardian slaves. Yeah, slavery is pretty much common in Nilfgaard. During the last few wars, we'd find Nilfgaardian companies dragging whole villages of folk back down to the south to serve Nilfgaardian lords. Worse, you'd find plenty of bastards selling off their own kin to the Black Ones. Don't want to know what it's like for the unlucky folk who get caught, but I can't imagine it's pleasant. You mostly hear about the folk who've been indentured. Fancy term for putting criminals into temporary slavery. Turns out if your family commits a crime that ain't too bad but ain't small enough to forgive, you could be indentured to a lord or lady. It's all temporary, of course. You live in the servants' quarters, work off your crimes against the Empire. While you're there, you might as well be a slave, though. So, family status. Everyone grows up differently. One man may come of age in a place as the son of a king, while another toils as a slave in the vineyard of a wealthy man. Your family status can tell a lot about how you grew up and what kind of person you turned out to be. Roll a D10 or choose below, then go to most influential friend. So Northern, Nilfgaardian, Elderland. Most influential friend. Most people can point to someone they knew in their life who helped shape them. Roll a D10 or choose below, then go to siblings, Northern status, Nilfgaardian status, and Elderland status. Sentimental items. The items you get from your friend aren't really meant to be particularly useful. Even the dimaterium in the ring given to you by a mage hunter isn't enough to seriously perturb a mage. The importance of the item is its sentimental value to your character. Brandon's mentor, Professor Udarius, my mentor, was not a man appreciated in his own time. Many history scholars are called to appear to the court of this or that noble. Their primary employment there is the tracing of family lineages. It's a study more profitable than interesting. However, Professor Udarius was fascinated by the history of the werewolves. He was extremely knowledgeable and had traveled to the last known secret enclaves of the elusive creatures in the mountains to the east. He also knew a great deal about the private lives and financial dealings of other professors, which stood him in good stead. I learned a great deal from him, Brandon. Siblings. People on the continent tend to die young from disease, famine, or just pure violence. This means families tend to be very large to make up for the high death rates. Exactly how large changes from region to region. So, Northern Realms, Nilfgaardian, non-human. Only children. If you don't have any siblings and you die, you can come back as a friend. Work with your game master to stat out your friend, and remember that you may have to change said friend a bit to fit them into the adventure at hand. Multiple roles. Anytime you see a table with multiple headers highlighted in blue, roll separately for each of the headers. This is used to determine many parts of an NPC, such as your siblings, friends, or enemies. So you roll this. You roll if if your sibling is male or female, if they're younger and older than you, or if they're equal to you, if they what their feelings about you are, and what their personality is. Enemies at home. If your sibling is jealous of you, can't stand you, or wants you dead, it's very possible that they may wind up being used as an enemy against you over the course of the game. This sibling isn't considered an enemy right away. With the right suggestions from outside forces, they may come to be a dedicated enemy. If you die and decide to play a sibling that was your enemy, you can definitely do it, as long as your GM agrees. It could lead to interesting player dynamics, especially if that sibling was responsible for your first character's death. Death and siblings, just like the Witcher novels and video games. The Witcher pen and paper TRPG is dangerous. If you take on a threat far greater than yourself, have a stroke of bad luck, or follow a suicidal plan, there's a very high chance you're going to wind up getting killed off. This is the world without resurrection. Your character is 110% dead and won't be coming back unless someone uses necromancy to drag your consciousness back into your corpse for a few minutes. This is where siblings come in. We suggest that if your character dies and they have siblings, you pick up as any one of them. The GM can more easily find a way to fit your sibling into the party, usually via them finding out about their sibling's death. It also stands to reason that if your companions are nice, they will be more willing to give a sibling your old character's stuff. And this is also where we go into life events, because this is more life path stuff. Non-humans in age. All non-humans are incredibly long-lived, assuming they aren't killed early. Elves and dwarves can live for hundreds of years if they aren't murdered and they don't succumb to a disease or horrible accident. After you figured out how you grew up and found your niche, you get to find out what happened to you over the course of your life. You could get just stuck disgustingly lucky and have all sorts of friends, boons, and skill improvements, but you could also get struck by disaster. It's all a toss up, just like most people's lives. For a full 10 years you've been alive, roll a d10 on the table below to determine what the most important event that decade was. So you roll a d10. If it's fortune or misfortune, allies and enemies, or romance. So this is the fortune misfortune table. Sometimes your life sits on a knife's edge. A little too much pressure in one direction or the other can send you plummeting into misfortune or tumbling into unforeseen blessings. It's a gamble, but you get lucky. You can find yourself with unexpected income, new friends, favors, and even status. Just make sure to avoid addiction and insanity. Roll a d10. On an even, roll the fortune. This one. On odd, roll misfortune. Addiction. When you are addicted to something, you feel the need for that thing every day. You must roll under your will each day you don't get your fix. If you fail, you can think about nothing but getting your fix and take a -5 to all other actions. Every day you don't get your fix, you lower your will for the sake of this check by 1, making it harder and harder to keep making the checks. Anytime your addiction is offered to you, you must make a roll under your will, modified by the number of days you haven't had your fix, to not partake immediately. You can kick an addiction by going for 3 weeks without indulging in your addiction. You don't need to make successful addiction checks. You just can't partake in the addiction. So if your misfortune is addiction, it'll take 3 in-game weeks without doing the addicting substance for you to be cured of, well, not cured. That's the wrong word. For you to fully renounce it. Lifepath skills. Unlike racial skill boosts, bonuses to skills gained through a life path do not raise skill caps beyond the maximum. So if you have a skill at 6 and you get a bonus via your life path, it does not go above 6. Allies and enemies. Enemies are inevitable. You're going to make them, especially in a world like this. They can really shape your character, especially if you weren't the offended party. Allies, on the other hand, are absolutely indispensable. A good friend can save your life or make things easier on you in tough times. Roll a d10. On even, you make an ally. On an odd, you make an enemy. Meeting friends, besides giving you another option when your character dies. Friends can be very useful for plenty of situations in game. You can hunt up your friends for favors, safe places to stay, and allies in particularly tough times. Friends can also be encountered during the plot of your game to give you NPCs that your character already knows and has a rapport with. So allies, roll gender, roll position, how you met. How close are you? Acquaintances, friends, inseparables, or bond? Where are they? Enemies. Gender, position, cause. Enemy power. Your enemy's power, as rolled below, is more of an abstract. Think of it as a guideline or a starting point for the GM to build a villain based on that type of power. A socially powerful enemy might become very influential in local world politics. An enemy with powerful minions may have a troll or a small gang backing them up. A magically powerful enemy might be a cunning mage or have a powerful magic weapon. So, who was wronged? It may not be you who was wronged. This world, there are a lot of people playing out a lot of different plans. It's very possible you made an enemy without even realizing. Roll a d10 or choose even. You are the one who was wronged. Odd, you wronged someone else. So you roll the d10s. Roll the d10 for their power. How far it escalated, and what is their power. Befriending enemies. It's very possible that you wind up befriending an enemy. Granted, this is much less likely if your enemy is out for blood, but it's still possible. You may wind up reconciling your differences peacefully or being forced to team up against some larger threat. This happens and the GM allows it. You take that enemy off your list of enemies and maybe even move them to your list of friends. This is very rare though. Romance. Romance isn't exactly uncommon in the world of The Witcher, but happy romance is. One-night stands and love affairs that end in death or depression are far more common. Happy love affairs, enduring joy and true love are a possibility, but they are rare. If you achieve it, it's assumed that you are happy together until you roll another romance of a different type. That roll then applies to your current lover. Whores and debauchery means that if you spend your time sleeping around, buying whores, and perhaps leaving a trail of bastard children in your wake if you weren't careful. Unless you're a witcher, then you don't have any kids in your wake because you're sterile. Roll a d10. If you have a happy love affair, a tragic a romantic tragedy, a problematic love, or debauchery. So, tragedy, problematic love. Your personal style. Every character has their own style that sets them apart. Geralt, whether he's rocking a full beard or friendly mutton chops, always has his white hair, two swords on his back, and well-worn light armor. If you want to take a random crack at Cell, or you're not sure what your character's like, roll below. Roll once for each column, so clothing, personality, style, affectations. Values, value person, value, feelings on people. Surnames. Northern humans usually have a Vex as their last name. This means human names are usually things like Olson of Carrick or Agnes of Aldersburg. In Nilfgaard, where dialect of the Elder speech is the primary language, names are joined with either Var, which indicates membership in a family, or Ape, which is used like son of. This gives you names like Emiravar Emrys and Liam Ape Mirmos. In some regions, you'll see variants of this, as in some places in the north and Nilfgaard, where D or Van is used instead of, giving us names like Jacques de Aldersburg and Carthia von Kanten. These are generally associated with nobility, however. Comparatively, non-humans legally have surnames like Bivervelt, Tive, and like. For most elder races, you are reasonably safe to take Welsh surnames, though for dwarves, we suggest that you use surnames from more exotic regions. There's Hungary and other countries in that region, Ukrainian, etc. Common names. Names in The Witcher tend to vary based on region. Common speech names are generally European, while names in the Elder speech are usually Welsh or Celtic in the case of some elves. Once again, Skelligers are an exception. Generally, Skelliger names are Scandinavian. Dwarves who speak their own languages have more exotic sounding names in general. So here's some common Elder speech names, Skelliger names, Elven names, Dwarven names. And that'll be it for now. This is, again, generally just a video for everything else. So I hope you enjoyed your stay. We will go over the Witcher profession and mage profession in the next video. I hope you enjoyed your stay. Ta-ta and cheers.